Papuskis. Yeah, you forced me to do that, Leanne. I'm sorry. I had
Well,
to.
you look like you're dressed nice and warm for the day.
I want records. I want to go lower.
I'd rather not.
No, this is not sufficient, Leanne. Come on. Bring the good old days.
Nicole, looks like we've got just about everybody.
Yep, I think so.
Okay. Do you want to bring up the slides and then?
Yeah.
Looks like you're recording already. Oh, there we go. All right. So good morning again, everyone. It is wonderful to have all of you here for our informational session this morning regarding the public pre-K expansion grants. First off, on behalf of the Department of Ed, I want to say congratulations to all of your SAUs. The early learning team and our governor's office are very excited about the opportunity to work with all of you on expanding public pre-K opportunities across our state. So this will be the first of what I know will become some ongoing communication that we'll be having with you as we work to support you in this expansion effort. So I'm going to take a moment for some folks from our team to introduce themselves this morning, and then we'll dive right in. So for those of you who I have not met formally in the past, I'm Leanne Larson. I coordinate the early learning team in the Department of Education, and that is where our public pre-K program is based. For the purposes of this grant, I'm also the grant coordinator. So I'll be one of the individuals communicating with you a lot as we move forward. I'm going to hand it over to Nicole Medor.
Thanks, Leanne. Good morning, everybody. I'm Nicole Medor. I'm the early childhood specialist at the Department of Education, and I work with Leanne on the early learning team. We also have a team member, Marcy Whitcomb. She's our early childhood monitor. Unfortunately, Marcy couldn't be here today for this meeting, but moving forward, I'm sure you'll receive communication or outreach from Marcy at some point. So just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of her as well. And I think Nina's here.
Good morning, I'm Nina Cunningham. I'm the Head Start State Collaboration Director. So I work at the Department of Ed in the early learning team. I also work across state agencies with the Office of Child and Family Services and with Anna, who you'll meet next.
Great. Hi, everyone. I am Anna Hicks. I'm the Children's Cabinet Coordinator in the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation in the Future, and expanding public pre-K is one of the priorities of the Children's Cabinet and the Governor. So happy to be here today.
Thanks, Anna. You'll also notice a to be hired contract grant specialist position, and that is a position that we are currently working to hire an individual for. That position will be charged with working on the development of the contracts, the execution of them, all of the ongoing invoicing related to the contracts. So when we have that position on staff, we will most certainly be introducing you all to the individual, and because that will be another position that you're going to have a lot of interaction with over the coming year. We didn't list it on this particular slide, but we are also going to be hiring one more position in the spring of the year, and that will be another early childhood specialist to help provide technical assistance to the schools involved in the expansion, because we know that with the number of schools, fortunately, that we have in our state who are implementing public pre-K, we need some additional support on our team to make sure that we are able to assist all of our SAUs. So just as a reminder, I wanted to walk through the purposes of the request for applications that your SAUs submitted and were successful in terms of having an approved application. As you may recall, the funding for this opportunity came out of the Maine Jobs and Recovery Act. That act provides the guidance for the state around how we will spend the money that is provided to the governor under the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. And in that Maine Jobs and Recovery Act, it provided $10 million to the Department of Education for the expansion of public pre-K. This was done very deliberately in an effort to address some of the inequities that have become very apparent as a result of the pandemic, and making sure that young children and their families are well supported is something that we feel very, very strongly about in our state. And this is one of the opportunities that funding is going to enable our state to be able to provide support for. So as you'll recall, SAUs were encouraged to apply for this funding, either to start programs if they had not had a public pre-K program already begun in their SAU, or to expand that programming to more students. Additionally, the opportunity also supports moving from part-time or part-day, part-week models to full-day, full-week models within SAUs. So we have a whole variety of those expansions, everything from starting programs for the first time to expanding to more students. And a number of the SAUs on the call today are also moving from part day, part week to full day, full week models.
Okay, so we wanted to provide sort of a brief timeline to let folks know kind of what to expect as the coming weeks and months unfold. So right now, through the month of February, us at the DOE will have some responsibilities, and those are the first two listed here. So we'll be seeking clarifications to some application responses and budget calculations. So what districts sent into the RFA for their applications, obviously those were reviewed and scored and awarded and whatnot. And there were still some questions and clarifications that the scoring team and myself and Marcy wanted to make sure we were clear on before moving forward with contracts. So you'll see some information coming out after this meeting around that, and I'll talk more about that in a minute as well. We'll also at the DOE be working to start drafting contracts. Folks at the SAU level, now's the time to really start working with any potential partners that you listed in your applications if they exist. So maybe starting to outline some of those MOUs, those memorandums of understanding. And then also SAUs are going to want to start to begin your efforts toward recruiting students in the community. So typically around January, February, public schools are starting to put information out to community members about their program that's going to be available the coming school year. So whether that's pre-K, even kindergarten, etc. So starting to recruit those families and let them know what's going to be happening that they can start registering for. March will be here before we know it. So come that time, we'll be looking to finalize budgets based on your EPS allocations and starting to execute those contracts. So Leanne had mentioned that we're hoping to hire a grant contract specialist. So that'll be a large part of that individual's role. So once that person is on board, we'll make sure that everybody is aware of their contact information and to be on the lookout for information coming from that person. You know, and we'll be CC'd and part of that conversation as well. So, you know, you can look for or ask us any questions as well. And then come late spring and throughout the summer, April through August, that's going to be really the time to start buckling down and getting those purchases that you may need, securing staff for your programs, coordinating with partners if that's applicable, and continuing any enrollment efforts. So you should know come August pretty well how classrooms are going to be filling up. And then on our end, we'll be providing technical assistance. So that'll be individualized as needed. So whatever your programs are needing in terms of assistance from us, we're happy to do that. And we'll also plan to provide universal technical assistance, not much different than today, right? So this is sort of our first meeting. getting everybody on board, and communication and conversations like this will continue on a universal level as well, because certainly your individual SAUs are experiencing different types of programs, but on a broader level, there's some information that can be shared that we want to make sure our communication is clear. So that'll be sort of a draft timeline over the next few months. So I had mentioned emails coming. After today's meeting, you can look for an email from Leanne at some point during the day. That's going to really highlight individual SAU information. So you'll each get one that's pertinent to your district and your application that you provided to us through the RFA. So what we had planned for is that RFA application you submitted will count as your pre-K application. So typically districts will let us know through a survey application their plans to start or expand a program. That's a typical expectation. So we don't want you folks to have to do both of those things. So your RFA application is your pre-K application, whether it's a startup or an expansion. So because of that, there is some information that we need to clarify depending on, the information you've already given us. So that email that will be coming out from Leanne will highlight some clarifications needed. It's nothing that's too earth-shattering, just some, can you provide more information on this, clarify this, you mentioned this, did you mean this type of information. So we'll hope to get that out today and look for responses in the coming weeks. I think we were hoping by the 24th-ish, by the end of January, to have responses back. As always, if something doesn't make sense to you in that email, please let us know, right? We don't want to leave anybody guessing. So always reach out to us if there's something that you need more information on from our team at the DOE. A few applications also will require some budget updates. I'm going to share in a moment the budget tables again, just to provide some more clarification around what that might look like. And when you respond to that email, it might be best if you just go back to your original application and just respond within there with edits. So for example, if we are looking for clarification on your program's schedule for the week, right? So Monday through Friday, 8 to 3 type of a thing. If that wasn't clear in the application, then you can just go back and do a track changes or add a comment to update your original application with the new information. Does that make sense? I can't see folks' faces, so let me know if that causes more confusion than not. So whatever makes most sense to you. We certainly don't want you to recreate a whole new application. That's not what we're looking for at all. Just update it with the edits that we're looking for. Embedded in that email is also a survey. It's really just a way for us to collect some information on a broad level. So we're looking to get some contact information. So moving forward from here on out, who's going to be that key contact person that we should be interacting the most with? That might be a superintendent, it might be a principal, it might be a lead teacher. It really varies across the district. So we're just looking to gather that information. So we're making sure we're reaching out to the right person every time. And that survey will also inquire about any technical assistant needs that your individual schools might be looking for. Again, we want to make sure that that's provided on an individual level as needed, as well as a global universal level. So you can be looking for information through there, provide information through there. So the budget sample. This is just something that we pulled together to sort of highlight the budget that was in the RFA and how it might look depending on the program that you're planning on starting or expanding. So a lot of the budgets were clear and concise and provided the information that we needed. Other budgets, some of the calculations didn't make sense to the scoring team, where there were questions, clarifications needed from the scoring team in regards to the budget. So what I did was just pulled those 3 tables from the RFA application and put them into this document as a sample. This is not something you have to do, just wanted to provide clarification for it. So each table is down here on the bottom, table 1, table 2, table 3. So you'll recall that the first table really just highlighted students. How many students are you planning to have? So in this sample, the district currently operates one classroom in a part-day model, so like a half-day, 3-hour program. They're looking to have one morning class, or currently they have one AM class and one afternoon class. With the grant funding, they're going to expand to 3 full-day, full-week classrooms. So they'll have 3 lead teachers, 3 ed techs, 16 students in each space. And they will also have a community partner, a Head Start partner in each of the 3 classrooms. So for this example, the estimated total number of pre-K students included in the whole project is 48, because there's 16 students per classroom and 3 classrooms. None of those students are enrolling in part-time programming because it's a full day, full week, so that stays 0. The number of new students enrolling in full day, full week, so these are new students. This is where it kind of can be a little confusing, because this particular example had an AM and a PM class. So they had 16 AM, 16 PM, 32. Now they're adding that 3rd room. So 16 new students are going to be joining. Those other 32 that already existed in the AM and the PM are shifting to full day. So 32 students are shifting, 16 will be brand new, and we'll have 2 brand new classroom spaces, because that AM PM was in 1 space, and now we're adding 2 more for 3 full day spaces. So this table can be a little convoluted, it can be a little confusing. So there may be questions about that, which we can circle back to in just a minute. Once that table is all set, you can move on to table 2. So this is really where our estimates are coming into play. This left-hand column, A, the budget category, is what we suspect money will be spent on. Certainly there's a column for other, or a row, I should say. So if there's something that comes up for your particular district that isn't listed here, please don't hesitate to add it into that space. So in this sample, we have 3 lead teachers. We're going to estimate about $100,000 per teacher. So our amount budgeted is $300,000, $50,000 per ed tech, so $150,000. And this goes on just as examples. And we were clear in the explanation of expenses where those figures came from. So I'll just leave this up for just a second so folks can kind of see where our sample classroom is budgeting items. So this table 2, it's important to know, it doesn't matter if the grant's going to fund it, or your partner's going to fund it, or your local and state totals are going to fund it. This table 2 is really just about what's the cost, right? Where is this money sort of allocated throughout in terms of programming, operating the program. And then we'll get a total at the bottom here. Row 15 is a total. So this sample class program is going to cost just over $500,000. It's the sum of everything above. So the next really important detail that will be needed is contacting Tyler Backus in our financial team to get an allocation amount. So this sample, we reached out to Tyler and he told us that from the state and local for FY23, we're going to get $248,000 and some change. So when I subtract that from my total, I'm left with this figure, $280,000. So the program's going to cost $500,000 and I'm going to get $250,000 from the state. So I have $280,000 to come up with. I have a partner that's offering a generous amount of $75,000. So I subtract that out. So after everything is said and done, this program's going to cost, or I'm going to have to come up with about $200,000. So hopefully the plan will be that the grant fund will cover that cost. Table 3 is where everything comes down to, okay, how are those amounts getting paid? What line of funding is going to support that cost? So you'll remember we budgeted $300,000 for the lead teachers. That is not an allowable expense through this grant for lead teachers. So it's blacked out. Can't even put anything in there. So we're gonna put all of our local expenses, that figure from Tyler. This is just, you don't have to do this. This is just the sample. It's gonna go there, and then the remaining will come from our partner contributions. The personnel salary for our ed techs is allowable, but only in full day, full week programs, which the sample classroom is. So that $150,000 estimate for our ed techs is going to go under the pre-K expansion grant. So we go down line by line, what's paying for what. And at the bottom, these totals should align with the tables previously. So anything that's coming up from the state and local side, that figure that you got from Tyler, that should match here, right? So this total must match the figure provided to you from Tyler Backus on our finance team. And his contact information, if you don't already have it, will be provided in the email that you get. If you have a partner and they're contributing financially, those figures will be there. For some of you, this will be 0. And then everything else will be the pre-K grant expansion funds. So this figure should match the amount on table 2. So you don't have to use this sheet. It's really just there for an example to sort of show, our expectations of how figures will pan out over time. If it's helpful, great. If it's not, I'm sorry to have wasted your time, but it's sort of helped us to navigate it.
Nicole, I'm going to add just a couple other quick things to this.
Sure.
So first off, in the emails that you're going to receive, not all of you are going to have questions about your budget. Some of you are fine with your estimated budgets at this point.
Yes.
You'll know that when you receive your email, if you have some bullets embedded in your email that are questions about your budgets. In some cases, SAUs might have obtained what the estimated allocation was, but did not fully use that allocation when you determined how much you were going to ask for in grant funding. And you need to use that allocation first. And then the remaining amount is what can be asked for through the grant funding. So for some of you, that's going to be the issue that you're going to be asked about in your emails, and you'll need to go back to your budgets and make those adjustments. If for some reason your SAU did not reach out to the Department of Ed back in the RFA process to get estimated allocations for the coming year, this might also be a question from us, and asking you to please do that to make sure that we've got the best estimate that we can at this point. What you're going to be providing in those estimated budgets is a placeholder for us for the moment. We were very clear in the RFA process that we couldn't finalize the contracts until the department finalizes the EPS allocations. So that information will be coming out a little bit later this winter. And once we have that, then we'll be able to work with all of you to finalize the budgets. And that's why we have to hold on the contracting process until that point. One other column that was in what Nicole just showed you that some of you may have some funding allocated to is other federal funds. So some SAUs did look at other funding that they have available. Some of you might have tapped into other COVID-related rescue funds that are coming, like your ESSER funds. Some may be tapping into Title I funding or Title II funding for something. So it's possible that you may have some expenses that you're going to code to that column, but that's not an absolute necessity. You don't have to have done that, but you will have expenses in your EPS allocation column, and then most certainly in what you're asking for in grant funding. And then if you have a partner, you may also have some funds allocated in that column. All right, so with that said, we'd love to take any questions that folks might have at this point in the process. And Nicole, I'm wondering if at this point we might want to just stop sharing the screen because it'll be easier for us to see one another. Thanks.
Just a quick question. So you said that we'll get the final amounts on the grants at what time exactly?
We're anticipating, Mike, that by sometime in March, we'll be executing the contract. So
Okay.
we imagine that the department will release, and I think they're obligated to release by I want to say it's either January 31st or February 1st, the estimations for EPS. And then we'll work with you to update your budgets based on those. And then that's what we will turn around and use to actually develop the contract so we can get that amount finalized for you.
Okay. And just one follow-up question. If we're a minimum receiver and we're not going to receive any money for pre-K, does that accelerate the process at all for us determining how much we're going to get if we know we're going to get zero from the DOE?
That's a great question. I may need to get back to you on that.
Sure.
Yep.
Leanne, I have a question.
Mhm.
What if Tyler's EPS estimate is off? So the estimate that we got back in October from him, so we get our EV to 79 and at the end of January, and if those numbers are off, what do we do then?
So if they're off, you're going to need to use what your allocation is, and then that will adjust your grant funding one way or the other. So if you're going to end up with less, you may be able to ask for slightly more in grant funding. If you're going to end up with more on the allocation side, you're probably going to ask for a little bit less on the grant side because you need to use that allocation first.
Yeah. And a follow-up question, if you don't mind. Here in Kittery, we're excited about this grant opportunity, and we don't have any pre-K at all right now. So this is a big deal. But we are also a minimum receiver, and we're a little concerned about how we're going to pay for this in FY24. So what's any signs of additional grants that might put my mind at ease and enable me to sleep a little better in the months to come?
Yeah. So one thing that we can share is that there's going to be a second round of this funding, and that will be open to SAUs across the state, including those who applied and were successful this year. So there will be an opportunity for you to apply again if that's necessary in order to help continue to fund. We need to do some work on our end to determine kind of how much that might be that we can help support in the coming year, while also supporting other SAUs that need to get programming started. So more information will be coming about that, Eric.
Okay.
And our hope in the next round is to do that much earlier than this past round was. Our hope is to get that out in the summertime so that SAUs have plenty of prep time to write those applications. We really appreciate how much effort all of you folks put into a pretty short turnaround time on this grant, but we're sort of bound by how timing works with the EPS formula for this. And in order to get it into this year, we had to do it in that time frame.
Thank you.
Beyond that, I can't tell you with any certainty. There are things that we are thinking about. And here's the other piece: should Build Back Better be approved at the federal level, that probably, and if our governor's office decides that we're going to take part in that work, that may also be another opportunity coming forward.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Susan, looks like your hand's up.
When we did the grant and the quick turnaround, we came up with some pretty ballpark numbers for building modifications. And since then, we have found out that some of those numbers were probably too low. Is there an opportunity to readjust some of those numbers, or to move money from one line item to another?
Yeah. The first ask I need to clarify with our division of purchases. So I'll write that down, whether or not you can adjust the amount that you had originally asked for those expenses. But generally, the rule of thumb with grants is that there is some allowability of moving funding from one line to another in your proposed budget. So that may be more allowable, but let me get back to you about that.
And
First question.
And how long do we have to spend the money? Because one of our biggest expenses is a building modification that we don't have to have, but would certainly enhance the program. And how much time we have to spend that, and whether or not we have to go out to a full RFP to get that building modification done in time to open school in September or not. So, do we have to spend this money within a year? Or what's the?
Right. We are anticipating that the contracts will be written probably through June 30th of 2023. And the money is certainly available. In fact, looking for Anna because I want to make sure that I give the right end date, but I believe the money is available through August of 2024.
Yeah, at least that's what our understanding right now is August 2024. We are diving into that with our administrative and financial folks just to make sure we're accurate. So we will, but at least through August of 2024, we will definitely, the funding will be available.
So, and what I thought I heard you say is, if we don't get this building modification done through other constraints and it costs more than we had anticipated, we could actually apply for second round funding to see if that would then get approved.
Potentially, or I'd also encourage you to look into any of the opportunities through the building funds that come up, like I'm probably not going to get the right term for it, but I know there are a couple of opportunities that SAUs can sometimes take advantage of. Unfortunately, for the timing of this first round didn't really allow well for that, but the second round it should allow for. So that's something that we can make sure that we make available to SAUs.
So my next question is sort of totally on a different thread. With this initiative in the state for having pre-K, and with the limited number of people in the state certified to teach pre-K, what leeway is there going to be in hiring conditionally certified? Can you get a conditional certification for pre-K? How is that going to work with this? You have all these people, we're all going to have pre-K, but then finding somebody to actually do that.
It's not unusual, and Nicole, you can probably speak more to this, but it is not unusual. Oh.
You're back now. You're good.
Sorry about that, everybody. Every day my internet goes down at like one interval. Sorry about that. So it is possible to hire conditionally certified 081s. Nicole can probably speak a little more to that, but it is not unusual for that to occur as programs are getting off the ground, especially if you're looking potentially to move, let's say, a kindergarten or first grade teacher into a pre-K classroom. Obviously, we really strongly encourage you to be trying to hire folks who have strong experience in the pre-K realm, but we know that we're all facing a shortage in many areas.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that, Leanne, except to say we certainly want to work with you, not against you. So, putting out information to the community that you're looking to hire and the qualifications required for that role, and then going through what you get for applicants. If there isn't something that comes of that process, then that's definitely something we want to work with you on to make sure that we're hiring folks that are as qualified as can be and of high quality experience for that particular position. And like Leanne said, a conditional certificate is possible for the 081, and our folks in our certification team can speak more eloquently about that, but those contacts are there, and that certainly exists. The same is true for assistant teachers. Regardless, whether it's somebody with a conditional license or not, we want to make sure that the district is working with that individual for professional learning needs, for higher education needs, etc., to make sure that that role is maintained and continues to be a qualified role.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Leanne,
Hi, Tim.
hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Very cold northern Maine.
Oh, I can't even imagine, Tim. And tomorrow's going to be worse. Sorry.
I think the one thing that's we all need to take away from the positive of this grant opportunity is it's a chance to rethink early childhood education. And really, in my eyes, if we can expand anything with our pre-K, it helps set the stage for later on in school. And it's causing us as districts to kind of realign just our whole thought process of what's important. And I do agree that, finding teachers sometimes is a struggle, but providing this educational opportunity to students to get a head start in, and all their behavioral needs, special ed needs, if there are any occupational need, the whole speech is just as important in my eyes with a grant like this than an early college program is in high school. So I commend you for looking at this whole package this way and providing as much support as you can possibly. And it is a comforting feeling knowing that later on down the road, like with Eric's question, that's truly important for all our districts, because anytime we add any extra dollar, it's got to come with good justification. So thank you for the help you've done here.
You're very, very welcome, Tim. And I think you summed up very nicely what one of the most pressing goals for us in the work that we do every day. And certainly, I know Anna could talk a little bit about this as well, but the vision from the governor's office around ensuring that we are providing the support to children and families that they need as early as possible, because I don't think there's probably anyone in this group this morning that would disagree that the earlier we can provide that high quality programming for our youngsters, the better the pathway for them through the rest of their life is going to be. Right. Any other questions that folks have at the moment? All right, so I've written down a couple that came up that I want to clarify with our division of purchases, and I will get back to you on those questions. Look for email to come to you. Those are going to go directly to superintendents. So if you're working with someone else, whether it's your business manager or curriculum leader or a pre-K coordinator in your district, make sure to share that information with them when it comes. But we want to make sure it gets directly to superintendents. So that's who each one is addressed to. And then please know that as you're responding to the questions that we have, as you are working to rework budgets, that we are more than happy to answer questions. We're happy to jump on a quick Zoom session and walk through things. It's very important to our team that we are responsive to your needs and that we are getting you the answers that you need as quickly as we possibly can. So just know that if you send us an email, we do our very best to turn that around within 24 hours to you. And as you're completing the survey, make sure that you're giving us the contact information for all are going to need that communication, because one thing that survey is going to allow us to do is build a distribution list for this group as we move forward. And then again, any technical assistance needs that you anticipate. And it doesn't mean that you're going to think of everything now. Whatever happens to be top of the mind at the moment, get it down. You can keep asking for things as we move along, and there'll be opportunity to do that. All right, Nicole, anything else?
Not
I've overlooked?
necessarily. Thank you all for making this a priority this morning. It's fantastic to put a face to a name. Finally, I've interacted with many of you via email or voicemail, so it's nice to see folks in person, so to speak. This is certainly not our last opportunity to interact, so I'm looking forward to getting this off the ground and getting going. Exciting.
Yes. All right. Happy to stay on for a couple more minutes should anyone have another question, but otherwise, I think that's what we've got for you this morning.
Yep.
Stay warm, everybody.